for those who can't be here. So, Sabrina, we're all yours.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, first of all. I do think that it's a fairly important topic, not only to ensure that our students are getting the best quality education that we can give them, but also because we're required to do these things. And when accreditation comes to town, they are going to be looking. So I wanted to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Got a little presentation. So let me start it from the beginning. Why is it not letting me do that? Okay, so my computer, of course, has decided that it's going to freeze. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'll just get started on the presentation and hopefully it will unfreeze. Okay, there we go. I don't know what that was all about, but here we go. Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about regular and substantive interactions and what you need to know. This is a big part of delivering courses in distance ed. So I want to make sure that everybody is familiar with everything. So unfortunately, when I share it, the darn thing takes over my screen. Sorry about that, guys. Just hang on for 1 second. Okay, so how many of you guys know what regular and substantive interactions mean? I've asked this question at department chairs too, and I'm going to continue to ask it. I asked it in the survey, faculty survey that we just put out. And basically, what it is, can you guys still see my PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. The computer's just being a little bit difficult right now. Okay, so I'm going to start off with what is required and why we need to do it. We basically, when we do our self-study, accreditation will ask for evidence that we're complying with their criteria for distance ed courses for the delivery, that delivery modality. And we do have a policy at the college regarding regular and substantive interaction with students. It's AP 4105. It does need to be updated. So accreditation will look at that as well. But using RSI is one of the best practices to ensure student success, and it is required not only by Title V and ACCJC, but also the U.S. Department of Education. So it's a major factor. Having RSI present in your courses, and I said RSI, which I'm going to say a lot because regular and substantive interaction is a long word. So I shortened it to RSI. It's a major factor in distinguishing your distance ed class from a correspondence course, and that is really major. We don't get financial aid funding for correspondence courses, and if we're claiming that they're distance ed courses and we get audited and they say, no, there's no RSI in these classes, we will lose our financial aid and could get in big trouble. So, so distance education is regular and substantive interaction with the instructors, initiated by the instructor, and through online activities that are included as a part of the student's grade. So this could be discussions, lectures, tests, quizzes, things that you can give your students feedback on, substantial feedback, a timely manner, that kind of thing. And then correspondence education are online activities that are primarily related to like reading materials. And maybe the student will post their homework, complete an exam without interacting with the instructor. The instructor may have an email or something, and periodically they may talk to the instructor that way, but it's very limited. So that's the difference between distance education and correspondence education. And as I said, correspondence education does not qualify for financial aid. So, okay, so what is RSI? Let's dig into that a little bit. The accreditation standard that we'll be hoping to meet this go around is the institution. It's accreditation standard 2.6. The institution uses delivery modes and teaching methodologies that meet student and curricular needs and promote equitable student learning and achievement. So the last time ACCJC visited, the team visited, they kind of didn't know what they were doing either. Distance ed was so new, but now they've really nailed it down. And last time we got a recommendation regarding distance ed. So we did, obviously we had to rectify that. We had to provide them with evidence that we were taking care of that. And we did a lot of dean's training because one of the recommendations said, how are you making sure that the online courses are effective and engaging? And they couldn't see how we closed that loop. So we offered Dean's training, and we also offered instructor training. But still, the recent surveys indicate that many of our online students, many of our online faculty still might not know what RSI is, and that they might not be providing enough of it in their online classes. So you can see the definition of RSI on the screen. And I don't know if, hopefully it's not too small for you, but the little pie charts that I included, we did ask faculty if they knew what RSI was, and also if they felt like they were fostering it in their online or their distance ed courses. So it was kind of shocking to me that, I shouldn't say shocking, but I was kind of surprised that the no is the orange. And so you can see many people don't know what that term meant. And you can also see that many of them, I find this interesting, that many of them don't know how to foster it in their online course, but they probably are. But if they don't understand what the term is, they may not know if they're doing it or not. So that's kind of the point of this training. Most of you, I would imagine, probably are, providing many engaging and regular interactions in your online class. I would imagine most of you are. I periodically have an opportunity to visit your classes, and I see it. So I'm not totally worried, but I do think we all need to have a better understanding of it moving forward, and we need to practice working with a checklist or something to make sure we are providing enough of it. Okay, any questions so far on any of this? Okay. Nope. Let me see. One of the other problems, so the surveys were a little concerning. That's okay, because it gives us a starting place. We know we need to take the RSI roadshow, do an RSI roadshow and help teachers understand what it is. But in addition, we also need to make sure that deans understand what it is, because again, as our recommendation from accreditation so many years ago, that's the only way, like if an instructor truly doesn't understand what RSI is, the only way they're going to get help and support with it is if their deans are saying, hey, this is what you need to have in your class, and I'm not seeing a lot of it. Let's work on a plan to incorporate more of it into your class. So it's not meant to be punitive, for sure. It's just meant to be like, everybody needs to be on the same page about what RSI is and how much should be in the class in order for it to be effective and engaging. And then if their deans aren't seeing it, or TFOs, they can have that conversation and come up with a plan to remediate it. So that we need to keep working on as well. And I will say that one of the other areas, like we've been since pandemic, and we've been doing I know many of you have been doing all those new addendums through curriculum, addendum approvals, and you have to meet with me sometimes, like, what does this mean, and so forth and so on. And there's an area in the DE addendum in Curricunet that calls for instructor contact. And I can get pretty particular about it, sometimes sending it back. Well, that's what this is all about, is how you're going to engage and have that contact with your student on a regular basis, and how is it going to be substantive in an online environment. That's what all that means. So if you ever are wondering, how it all ties together, you can go back to your course outline of record. You have to actually go into the Curricunet addendum. I can't see it on the PDF. I was looking the other day for another teacher I was working with. So you can go into the Curricunet addendum, distance ed addendum, and see how, for whatever course you're teaching, how that instructor contact was laid out, what types of contact were approved, and things like that. We try to keep it as generic as possible as technologies evolve and as different teachers teach the class, so that they can choose their tools or choose the engagement that they want to have. But you can still follow along with how the course was approved. Okay, so is there any questions on that? Okay, so I think you're seeing a very small screen. Am I right?
No, I see it.
Okay, you're not seeing the slides on the left-hand side?
I am seeing those as well.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead, just bear with me for 1 second. I'm gonna move my notes onto another screen and then move my presentation back so I can blow that up for you guys. Because that's why I can't do it. Resume slideshow. Get to the slide that we're on. Is that better? Hopefully.
Didn't change for me.
Oh, okay. Well, let me sorry.
I can read it just fine. I don't know about everyone else.
I can change.
It's fine.
Okay, I can change it really quickly. So hold on just a sec. I knew which one it was. Okay, sure. Okay, now is that blown up? If not, I'll just move on. Oh, I don't
It looked the
Anyway.
same.
All right. So in the student survey that we're currently doing, we have almost 500 students who've responded, and these are students who are in online classes at this time. We wanted to find out, and mind you, this survey never asks for students to give any input on specific teachers or classes. We keep it totally generic. It's just so that we know what training we might need to do to help the teachers improve and to help our program improve. So nobody calls out teachers. Every now and then a comment will slip through, but we don't ask questions that, for them to evaluate their instrucors or their courses in any way, shape, or form. So we were asking about communication in their online classes, and I put 4 or 5 responses up. However, for every one of these responses, I want everybody to know we have about 10 students saying how much they love their online class. Their online teacher is great. Their online teacher is on top of it. They provide this, they provide that. So I would say the bulk of you are doing really a good job. So I'm just picking on right now the area where we know we need to improve in some cases. So this is some of the we had an open-ended question after this one, and just asking them for additional input. And so they've spoken. They want to communicate with the teacher. They're frustrated if their assignments aren't graded regularly. I think I took out the date on this one, but they responded to the survey like in late October, and they said that they hadn't had a grade since September 17th or something like that. So that would be a ACC JCT member would come in and they would look at that and they would say that, RSI is not happening in this class. If this were common, I don't know the circumstances. It could be student, we know students sometimes just, yeah. So anyhow, but that's the type of thing we're talking about. Then there's the student who says that points out what's good about this one online class they're taking. Their teacher's communicative and available. But then they say their other teacher has everything canned. And again, if it's too canned, meaning there's no interaction going on, that's a correspondence class. So that's a red flag right there. So that would be one we would want to work with the instructor, just to make sure. But there could be other activities. Again, these are just taken out of bits and pieces of the survey. So, and then you can read the rest if you'd like. But basically, this graph shows that 57% of our students surveyed really think that the instructor has made themselves available, provided opportunities to interact. And then this is, are available. It goes from, obviously it's ranked 1 through 5. So this would be, unsatisfactory, and this would be less than satisfactory, or this would be not satisfactory at all. So in the 3s and 5s, I would say these 3, there is some sort of RSI going on that makes the student feel like the instructor is present, they are communicating, they are providing interactive opportunities. Okay, so let me see where we are here. Catch up to my slide. So what can you do as the instructor? What do you need to do? Let me go back and see if I can, oops, sorry. Okay, so this little graph, this little image just represents, again, how RSI makes all the difference in defining a distance ed course versus a correspondence course. So if you just have a bunch of quizzes and they're all auto-graded, and maybe there's some feedback, but again, it's auto-generated, like nice job, or nope, that one's wrong, try again. That's not substantive interaction. You could record some video lectures, but again, if there's not an opportunity to discuss or interact on these video lectures, or if you don't have like a follow-up assignment, like a discussion or something that provides that interaction, then it's still probably not sufficient. And then if you could have weekly announcements with due dates, but if it has no instructor personality, or it's just a list or whatever, what have you, then again, that's not the greatest as well. So a weekly announcement explaining what's coming up, maybe some activities on campus, maybe you're going to have an office hour, maybe you're going to say, you know, we took the midterm last week and 50% of you got A's, that's great, you know, things like that. That's all substantive. And this is grading without feedback, you know, and then this is grading with feedback. And then, so if you had all these, you would be just a happy little camper right here. So yeah, so, and then here's the links to some resources, and I can provide you with this presentation. So,
Sabrina, sorry to interrupt. Are you supposed to be on the 5th slide?
What slide are you guys seeing?
4.
Sorry, so you guys are still on the other screen. Sorry about that. Let me go back to that. I won't repeat it. You guys, I'm sure you can understand it. It's a very simple, it's a very simple little chart. So, but we'll talk about more of the ways to actually go ahead and do that. Okay. So where are we? Why are we having this conversation? We talked about that accreditation's coming. We want to make sure our students have a successful experience. We want to be a leader in delivering quality distance education. Since the pandemic, we know, you know, courses have been all over the place. We're trying to find a footing. And so we want to make sure we're doing things well, and that our students aren't discouraged with us, and that they don't go to other community colleges, because I think most of you know about cvc.edu search function, and they can find online courses up and down the state easily. So we want to provide stellar courses for our students. What you can do first and foremost is look at your course. So go into your course, and you could do your own self review, or you can ask a peer. It could be fun to have you know, morning coffee with a peer, and you guys each spend a few minutes reviewing your classes, looking for RSI, and then have a collegial discussion about it. Non-threatening, non-evaluative, just a casual conversation. You know, what do you think? And so that's one way of doing it. You can either do it yourself or ask a colleague, and we'll provide a checklist of things that you can you can check off. The Title V regulation says you must provide 2 types of interactions. So that would mean, you know, like you offer video conferencing for office hours, and you also provide timely feedback or recorded lectures with a discussion or whatever. You know, that's the bare minimum. Like, you're using 2 different types of interaction type, different types of faculty initiated interactions. But, you know, I would argue that, you know, you can see on the little graph that it's, you know, you're going to get the yellow frowny face, or the yellow straight line, if you don't have enough of them. And so, you know, we want to make sure that that accreditation doesn't say, you know, like, well, you didn't have, you know, we saw some classes that were marginal, so now we want to audit 5% more of your courses, because they will audit 5% of our online courses when they come. So just make sure you have enough in there for it to be successful for your students.
Sabrina, how will they audit them? Do they just go into live classes and poke around?
Well, I imagine, I don't know, you know, I know, like I said before, when they came, it was just so new and everything that I don't think they really had a good process. They didn't really know what they were doing. But I think now they've had plenty of opportunity. So they're going to ask Peter and I to set up an account for them, an iLearn account for them. And they will go into, I think it has to be either the semester we're in or this, well, they won't go into a live class, I don't think. So it can't be further than the semester before their visit. So So they'll look at the semester before and just start picking classes. So, and yeah, and they have to do 5%, but obviously, again, if they're not seeing it, they might do more depending on how extensive they want to search. So you want to ensure at least 2 examples of instructor initiated interaction. Could be content-based and community building announcements at Canvas, like we talked about. Threaded discussions. Now, a lot of teachers don't participate in discussion assignments, and I understand there's a lot of theory behind that, but you probably should, unless you're providing a lot of other interactions, that could be one way to get an instructor initiated interaction. It won't be considered one unless you're engaging with the students in it. But if you provide other types of interactions and you don't want to do that, that's fine too. Instructor created lectures posted in Canvas. And these can be done using video tools that integrate like interactivity quizzes. You might build a quiz on that lecture. We have tools like that. Studio does it, PlayPause does it. And you can also have a discussion on that lecture as well. Invite students to comment, to ask questions where they might get stuck. Timely and frequent feedback for student work. That's, as you can see from the comments, that's really important to students. They need to know how they're doing. You can also we have video and audio tools in Canvas that you can record your comments. So you don't even have to type them. You can just record them, since there's a place you can do it right in SpeedGrader. Rubrics are a good source of that too, of that feedback, because that can be almost instantaneously given to the students. Group or individual meetings, as we know, using Zoom or other video conferencing tools. You can hold online orientations, optional, depending on what type of class you're teaching. Could be optional, or live class sessions or workshops or something like that too. Using your inbox in Canvas, even using your email is fine too, but we always say use your inbox, because if accreditation comes and says, I don't see anything happening, I don't see any instruction, or not instruction, but contact between the student and the teacher, but you've been doing it all in your email, like your Gav email, they'll say, okay, give me your password, I'm going in. So in Canvas, you can just let them into your inbox instead of having to open up your email with everything else in it. So, okay, yeah, and then like instructional videos, as we talked about with the, and you can also do like weekly overviews or summaries, like if you're introducing a weekly module unit or something like that, that's good too. You want to ensure that the interaction is substantive, personalized. You want to have interaction that looks more like, hey, the point you made in the last discussion was accurate, but the dates of the conflict were slightly later. Check out earlier posts to get a good sense of the timeline. And what wouldn't be substantive would be, good work, dates are wrong. So that's kind of an example of grading feedback and interaction. So, I mean, this isn't to say that every assignment you have to give this in-depth, feedback. It's just to say there should be some, especially probably on any major assignment where the student might need that. Okay, and you want to make sure it's regular, that you offer regular interaction, and you also want to kind of establish a timeline for the expectation of communication. We say that's a best practice in everything that we train. It's a good practice to have a communication policy, and then you need to adhere to it. Too often, the instructor will post an office hour, but then they're not there for whatever reason, or the teacher or the student emails them, their communication policy says they'll get back in 48 hours and a week goes by. And that's just not acceptable. Whatever you put in your communication policy, adhere to. So make sure you can. Don't say, I'm on call 24/7. I have my phone on me, my email, blah, blah, blah. And then you go off for the weekend and the student's going, what happened? I would never say that, but some teachers do. But okay. So that's make sure you establish, your policy early, and follow it. And then if your course calls for it, and this again is when it gets approved through curriculum, there are some courses that lend themselves to, or there's some courses that outcomes are dependent upon student-to-student interaction. I don't know what kind of classes these would be particularly, probably we don't have a lot of them, but if they're dependent upon student-to-student interactions, and that's how the course outline of record has been approved through curriculum, then you need to make sure you're providing those student-to-student interactions. And those are like discussions, any kind of a peer review or a group project, open forum, non-graded discussions, things like that. So, like I said, I don't think many of our courses actually are dependent upon student-to-student interaction or have been approved that way, but if they have been, you need to provide those. We know that can build a more robust class anyway, so it's not a bad idea. Students sometimes learn best from each other, or from doing a peer review or something like that. So it's not a bad idea to include it anyway. Might make your class more engaging. Okay, I'm almost done. After the course review, you can do, if you do a course review, a self-review, or you have a peer review it, you can also, we have a best practices guide that's on our TLC website. We have a DE faculty handbook, and all of them talk about contact interactions, regular substantive contact, and it gives you a lot of guidance, what to do before the class, what to do during the class. And so I recommend those. You can attend more trainings. We will be offering RSI trainings, now from now until whenever. So we'll post those, and if you want a one-on-one, if you want more information, if you want one of us just to do a little review of your class, we'll be happy to. So check out your approved course outline of record if you haven't already, but I think you're going to have to go into CurricuNet to do it. So, and then you can also review the ACCJC's protocol for peer review of DE. That's how they're going to review our classes. They're calling it peer review. Enlist the help and support of your dean. Remember, your dean is there to basically make sure you have success in your classroom. And so they want to help you and ensure that success is happening. So ask them for support in creating maybe a friendly competition between departments. Like, well, we're going to review, 20 of our courses before the end of the semester. It's all going to be peer review. It's not evaluative. It's friendly. And you can set up a little process in doing it. Like we're going to have a round table every Friday, everybody bring their lunch. We're going to sit quietly for an hour, look at each other's classes, and then we're gonna have a conversation about it. That could be flex time. Maybe your dean has a magic pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and a little PD money or something. You never know. So get them involved to support you in that. What else? I think that's about it. We're happy to set up an iLearn shell, like this one college who went through accreditation and had to do a lot of work, Moreno Valley. They set up, they call it the DE Den, and it's basically a course shell where faculty can come and they can offer to review each other's classes. They can look at information that's there on RSI, examples. I can ask questions, all kinds of things. So we're happy to set that up if there's interest from the faculty on that. And I think that's about it, which was a lot. So thank you for letting me share it all. What questions can I answer? I see in the chat, there is a hybrid asynchronous considered in this distance ed category. Yeah, any of the online stuff that you're doing, you would need to ensure that there was that RSI. So, obviously when you're in the classroom, you're going to be speaking one-on-one, but when the portion, if it's a hybrid, theoretically, this is how it should be anyway. The hybrid, so you meet in person and you have your communication or whatever, your engagement. Then part of your class that's been approved to be asynchronous would be classroom time as well. So that classroom time needs to contain RSI, needs to contain some instructor initiated interactions, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times people forget this, including me, but it's not just homework. You're not just assigning homework when you're not meeting face-to-face, right? Whatever they're doing in that asynchronous environment for the hybrid portion or in a hybrid class, it needs to be class time. So, yeah. So, okay. Any other questions? You guys are a great group.
Thank you. for coming, Sabrina. It's real helpful. And
You're welcome. Yeah. I will come back anytime you want me to. So
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
bye.
Thank you, Sabrina. Bye.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda, let's jump right to the PIO team. They want to talk to us about events and fine arts. I think we have quite a bit more events than most other programs or departments on campus, with music and theater and art and TV and other things. So Rosie, do you want to talk to us? Do you want us to
Sure.
ask questions?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And my apologies if my connection is a little bit choppy. So if I cut off, then just let me know in the text. So yeah, and thank you for having us. Thank you so much, Noah, and the rest of the great team for allowing us to be part of your meeting. So we're planning, as you know, the college is working towards having a calendar of everything academic, events, because it's what serves students better. And so we're doing sort of a roadshow with meeting with all the departments. I know that in the last student services meeting, it was brought up, and then the last president's meeting. So the calendars are a little bit light. And so we want to be really proactive, as normally, as you know, the semester is going to start at the end of January. And so we want to make sure that all of you are either calendaring things in through Facilitron. As you know, we have new PIO job requests form, which is when you want us to create the work. And then there's review, which have to be approved by your area VP. Now, approval does not mean that if you publish, so that's just sort of the beginning. And we usually require, 2 weeks for review and at least 3 to 4 weeks if, we're sending stuff out to get printed. So having said that, the purpose for us being here is just asking if for all of you to start, putting your facilitrons and to start it as early as possible. I do want to give kudos to Grant. Grant, thank you so much. You gave me the date for the film showcase, which is going to help us do a better job and better attendance. And let me just give you an idea. When we do ads in the paper, I mean, we're planning the design and getting all of that through the business office. I mean, all of that sometimes can be up to 4 weeks. So therefore we can't, receive something, last minute. So we just want to get an idea from all of you right now. What are you thinking in terms of, what events other than the institutional, like Bach to Blues, and then we have the spring, production. But if there's anything else that any of you have questions on, we want to get those right now on a calendar, and we want to know what they are so you can submit your forms. And then we rather start planning those designs or reviewing those sooner rather than later, especially if you have anything going on in February. If we get back, then, we're not going to be able to, fulfill last minute requests. So
I can jump in because I've been planning
a summary as to why we're here. So we just want to be very collaborative and proactive.
Yeah. I know a lot of the events that are happening just because for Gav TV News, I've been writing down all the dates. For the spring semester, I know there's the piano competition that's on March 3rd, and we're going to be there to film it and then do a promo video as our news story. I know the Bach to Blues is on March 16th. I know in April, and I don't know the date, but there's a communications alumni speakers series, and we're going to film that. Our film showcase is May 4th. And then graduation. And so that's all that we have. So if there are more things that Fine Arts has planned, I'd love to know it, because I want to make sure we cover all the fine arts events as best we possibly can. Just was it last Thursday, we were at David's jazz concert, and that was exciting. We do a lot of the athletic events. We were at the volleyball game last night and such, but yes, I hope we get the dates early so we can cover your events. And I think that's what you're asking for, Rosie, right? Is
But what we're asking is, even if there's institutional events that repeat, to fill out the PIO forms, the digital forms, and I'll be sending out another email with those links, but I believe Noah has them, so that you get them in early, and let me just say something that has already come up, and the reason we're here, that we're trying to avoid. So there's, for example, an event that through Facilitron, through reserving the room, had a date and the time was different than the time that was filled in the PIO. So when that VP approved it, they wouldn't know whether there was a discrepancy. That event taking place at a certain time. And all I can tell you is that it was literally, I mean, just based on just that discrepancy. So we ask if you can, one, get your Facilitron early, right after that, make sure that those dates match, and that we'd rather you get your PIO for any work we have to create, or graphics or ads or anything like that, as we rather you get them in before the holidays so that we know what's coming down. We'd rather give you your entire package a month before, and so that everybody's empowered with the information. Know what I mean?
I'm just wondering, was everybody able to hear what she said about Facilitron? Because I know on my end, her audio was breaking up, so I wasn't sure if everybody was able to hear her.
She broke up a little bit.
but yeah.
Go
Okay,
ahead and repeat it, Noemi.
Okay, for the people that were not able to hear what she was saying about Facilitron, it's just very important that if you are planning a date, to go in and reserve that date on Facilitron, because recently we did have it. 2 major events were planned in the same location. A VP okayed one, a dean okayed the other, and one of the events was not on Facilitron, and it was for the same location and time. And so it caused a big issue. So that's why we know everybody has their dates set in their mind in terms of when they're going to have their event, but just remember to go book the room in Facilitron. So we try to prevent double booking of events at the same time, because people are thinking, oh, I already have this either the theater reserved or the student center reserved, and not knowing somebody else has taken it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi, for that.
And I just put in the chat that want to let folks know, Cecilia Giorgi, our division assistant, has Facilitron access. So in order to book on Facilitron, you can go through Cecilia. So let her know the date, let her know the event, all of that information, and then she'll make sure that it gets into the system. And then at that point, she'll obviously reach out if there's a conflict, if there's already something reserved for that time and location.
If we did the theater, for example, got John's okay, and then went to Izzy and he put it in, do we still go to Cecilia, or?
No, Izzy has Facilitron access too for the theater. So I mean, ultimately it needs to get into Facilitron because a lot of folks use the theater, not just Gavilan, but like outside folks. So it needs to get into Facilitron. But Cecilia and Izzy both have access to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also want to say that can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I also want to say that we will be, the theaters, this is going to be hosting a lot more outside organizations. So that's the reason not to assume that, that there's a lot of or tons of availability. Now in the chat, I placed a link to our PIO office and the and just so you know, you guys get first dibs. We haven't put this out yet. Under public, there's the forms right below office job request form for us to create. And then there's the marketing materials review form when you create something, but we still need to review it and approve it. And the last one, which will be part of the email and we'll send out, are the graphic standards, are the basic graphic standards. So that's where you can find the forms, and then that way you don't have to be searching for an email. Any questions any of you have right now as it relates to the PIO process and production of materials?
You broke up a little bit. I didn't hear some of what you said.
Yeah. Any questions? Is there any questions that you have for us at this time?
Not for me. Anyone else?
Okay, if there's no question, we just want to thank you again. We want to give it, I know David's not showing his face. We want to give him a huge shout out because we got the dates early, and you know, I heard it was very, very successful, and we got all the ads out, and we weren't rushing, and it was cry joyous to promote that. Less pressure on us to get this out, and we don't want to have a March Madness. Yeah, go ahead, Donnie.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone, for all of your help, especially the PIO team. And Noemi, this flyer was amazing. I got so many compliments on it. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And then before we leave, I do want to acknowledge Kaylee. Kaylee Arcus, our temporary PIO. Assistant, and she's been working a lot on social media and getting the the work out. So it's a team effort. So thank you again for having us. Have a great day.
Oh,
real
quick,
wait, no.
Noah has a question.
And that's what's the question. I just want to
Okay,
emphasize.
Noah.
I just want to emphasize two things. One is that the link for the form, you can search in your email. If you search PIO form, it pulls up, or you can send me or Cecilia an email. We'll get you the link. But that's for everything. I just want to emphasize that that includes not only events, but even if you want a social media blast to go out about something, if you want an all campus email, every sort of PIO request, not just events or marketing material, but anything you're asking the PIO team to do, please route it through the form rather than through email. The second thing I wanted to, there's one other thing I wanted to say. I'm blanking on it. I should have written it down.
So while you're thinking now, I want to emphasize that, yeah, if you do campus announcements, there's a way to load the Word doc, and please send us the campus announcements earlier rather than later. Also, what we're trying to do, the students last year had been complaining that we were sending too many, and planning for campus announcements allows us to schedule them and not bombard students. And then we've also started our bi-monthly PIO newsletter, and that's also a way to decrease the number of emails that students are getting. So as we head towards the end of the semester, we want to be able for them to view the newsletter, but not get bombarded because with emails, which we're told stresses them out.
Yes. Remembered it and I wrote it down.
Yeah.
So I think music and theater already know this. I don't know if any other programs use brown paper tickets, but we are not going to be using them any longer. We've had some issues collecting the funds that that they've charged for our tickets. So the college does have a new system that we use for tickets. So David used it for Jazz at Gavilan. So I don't know, like, if I don't know if any of the programs use ticketing services, but if you do, reach out to me and I'll work to get you set up. But just want to advise we're not using brown paper tickets anymore because of the issues we've had actually getting our funds from them.
Yeah, the only other thing
say
I would
something?
add, go ahead.
So I was there at the Jazz Fest. One of the complaints we got was the QR code. I'm wondering, like the high schools, they have these big A-frame where they have the QR code where people could purchase their tickets before they get to the ticket window, to make it a little bit easier and smoother. Otherwise, people are right in front of the line and they're holding up the line purchasing their ticket.
The athletics program has the code on the doors, and they just scan it as they are walking in.
Yep, that would be
seemed-
good.
That seemed to work really well.
Yeah, the only other suggestion I was gonna have for this group, and I don't know what the back end looks, so it might be good to look. What's great when you use Eventbrite is Eventbrite has the built-in marketing tools within it, so you get to market things, especially for arts, for the work in the events that you do. And it has that already, built in, right? Because it's a platform, tickets, and then now they're, athletics is using, I guess you guys are using their system. That might be something that the group should consider. And again, I don't know what that back end looks, tying it to what account on the back end with the college, but that's what we use institutionally when we run events, is tying it to Eventbrite. So
Thank you.
anyway, well, thank you again for having us, and we look forward to collaborating and all the exciting things in spring. Bye.
Bye, thank you. Okay, we skipped the exciting news and events. Maybe that ties in with the PIO team coming. What events do you have coming up or you'd want to share with the group? Things that are happening in your program. Jan, do you want to talk about your big project?
Thanks, Grant. Yes, I have a presentation I'm going to send out to each of you individually that you can forward to your students. It involves outreach and recruiting to relaunch the student publication. And I want you to, and David and I had a chance to chat about this, and I've talked with a couple others. Every student is uniquely positioned to tell the stories of Gavilan. And I want them to have that ownership. We have built a new online website. The journalism program is collaborating with the film program so the students can go back and forth between the modes they want to create in and serving as journalists with the film program. So within each of your programs, think of the students, the music students, the language students, the communication students, the art students that have a passion for what they do and they want to share some of those stories. Right now, Max isn't with us, but he would be talking about the ceramics sale, right? And the gorgeous work that we are all going to bring our wallets to buy. That could be a student story. And so one by one, let's rebuild that student voice at Gavilan so that from where they stand, we hear their voices and we see their perspective. You'll see the presentation come out a little bit later. Thanks. Thanks, Grant.
Sure. Anyone else want to talk about projects or events or things going on at Gavilan?
Yeah, I just want to mention that we are having an end of the semester student recital on December 7th. It's a Thursday evening, and it's going to be in the music hall. The students are really excited. It's going to be the ensemble class and also some of Maria's piano students. And big shout out to Albert for initiating the curtains. The room is much more classy and sounds much better too. So yeah, if you're around, come on by.
David, speaking of the sound, I teach in there too. Are we going to get speakers mounted back on the walls? Because those speakers on the stands are problematic.
Yeah, well, I was under the impression that the speakers were going to be reconnected on the walls. The one
I was too. That the speaker on the, well, if you're in the audience, the one on the right doesn't work more than it does.
Yeah, I think didn't Eddie say he was going to reconnect those? I don't think they're connected yet. So I'll reach out to Eddie and see if we can get that done.
Okay, yeah, good. Sorry for that. Anyone else have news or things happening? I will jump in and say that if you do, please let me know, because we want to cover it. We being Gav TV News. We finally got a platform. Our news stories are on the Gavilan homepage, and you can go back. They're all archived. So if you click on one, you can go and look at all the stories that we've done this semester. We're going to do some program features coming up. We're going to do communications. Denise and Veronica were kind enough to come to the TV studio, and they brought a bunch of amazing students too. And so we're going to do a promotion of the communications, or a story on the communications, and then use all that footage to make a video to promote the communications department and program. So if anyone else wants that, let us know and we can work it in to the schedule. But if you don't reach out to us, we might not know what your event is, or if you want your program highlighted or whatever. So let me know. Any other events, things you'd like to discuss? Okay, then let's go to reports. Charisse is not here, so we can't talk about GCFA or Senate. Curriculum is next. And Noah, Jan, and I can all talk about this. Just so you know our arrangement, Jan goes to all the tech review meetings. They're long and tedious. And so we have to thank Jan for all of her work there.
But we get things through. Your work will get through.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of classes need their 5-year updates. Pretty soon we're going to start to need to rename our classes, and I can explain that if you want. But there's a lot of curriculum work that needs to be done, and James can create a list. He just did so at the beginning of the semester. So if you want to know if your class is due for an update, please let Jan or Noah or me know, and we'll find out for you. So anything else you want to add, Noah or Jan, about curriculum?
Just a couple quick things. So this is going to be a major focus of mine in the spring, because I think that there's some 5-year updates that were past due. So I want to work closely with Jan and Grant to support all of the programs to make sure we're in compliance. So we'll be expecting curriculum updates for spring. I know, Denise, you've done quite a bit already for COM. For Arturo and David, I know you both are working, and Max and Maria, on the Cal GETSI GE curriculum updates to try to get our classes Cal GETSI GE approved. So if you need any support with that, please let us know. I think we're kind of running low on time, because the goal is to get those courses reviewed through curriculum committee this semester, so that Rosa can submit them for CSU and UC approval. And I think we only have maybe one tech review left. So at any rate, just be aware that that's coming up. So if we're still trying to get courses CalGET-C GE approved, we'll want to get those completed pretty soon.
Noah, can you expand on the timeline for that? She wants them done this semester.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're to take effect in fall of 25.
Fall of 24. Well, it would, I mean, if we get it through locally, then it would be as soon as spring, but then for the CSU and UC approvals, it would take up to fall of 24.
Okay.
Because the hope is that we can get it grandfathered in when the CalGET-C gets implemented in 25, so that our courses are already GE approved when the new CalGET-C launches.
Just for clarification, the catalog rights for students, though. So CalGET-C is not going to take effect until fall of 24, but students have catalog rights through spring of 24. So that means, in other words, students that started at a certain time with their catalog rights would still be able to use the old IGET-C CSU breadth pattern, right?
I'm ready to sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the fall 24 just is for students that start their catalog year in fall 24. That's when the new requirements or the new agreements would take effect, I think. So any student that has been taking classes and it's already in the process, I think would be able to use the old IGET-C CSU breadth pattern.
That sounds correct. I'll confirm with Rose and I'll follow up on the timeline.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks, Graham.
Anything else on curriculum? Okay, the next report is from chairs, and we had a lot of issues. One of them was the RSI and I thought it was important, and that's why I invited Sabrina to talk to us today, and you got a lot about that. The next thing is that we're about to have assessment be part of our routine again. It stopped during COVID, but they're going to start it back up. Peter Howell wants, I think it's 15 instructors to do kind of a pilot this semester. And it's now all assessment will be done on CurricuNet. And he will give training. And you are paid, by the way, still for assessing your classes. And then the following, I guess in the spring, many more people are supposed to assess. And then fall 2024, everyone does. If your class is up, due for assessment, and I think you have to assess every 5 years minimum. I think it might be less than that. Do you know how often, Noah? Noah might be.
Yeah, I think it is 5 years.
Yeah. So I don't think any classes have been assessed since 2019. So pretty much everybody's going to have to assess every class. And there's this new system. It's all going to be done on CurricuNet. So that's coming. If you want training on it, Peter will do that, and you can start collecting your money for assessment now, or in the spring. So that was another thing that was discussed. We talked about enrollment management and class caps, and then Modi gave us a long lecture about money and all of that. I think the chairs wanted more specifics about classes, but we didn't get to that. I will give you an update at our next meeting if we get more specific. I think he was hinting that we need larger classes and to raise our caps. We're trying to figure that out. I believe, no, correct me if I'm wrong, Noah, that Noah has the ability to be flexible and talk to individual instructors and programs as of now. So, but if we hear more, we'll let you know. The other thing that we talked about that we have a need is we want AI. Oh, yes.
I was just wondering, that's the business side of it. How is the instructional side conversations going? So there's the part that says, yes, we need to up our caps for financial reasons. Where's the conversation about the appropriateness of upping caps based on instructional needs? Is that happening somewhere?
Yeah, the chairs talk about it regularly, and we keep bringing that up. There are a lot of individuals in the meetings who say that, you know, these particular classes can't have their caps raised. And then there's the quality of, I mean, RSI, for example, if you have regular substantive interactions in your online classes, that takes a great deal of time. And if you have a lot of students to do a really good job, it's not possible. And if you don't do that, clearly the success rates go down. Success rates are also part of funding. So we are talking about all those things. We were hoping to have more of a interaction with Modi in our last meeting, and he ended up giving a lot of reasons why we need to do this financially. But those conversations are going to continue to happen.
What happened to the conversations that were supposed to happen in curriculum? Because that seemed to be the right place where there's administration that represents kind of the financial part, but then there's also instruction, and then that it's actually input into the curriculum that what a class cap would be based not only on the factors of finances, but also what you're bringing up, you know, the how much work or how much time is needed for, or how many students can actually be taught in a particular class. You're saying that now those conversations are happening at department chairs?
Well, I know that they're happening there. We have been talking about them at curriculum as well, but I can tell you that curriculum program doesn't think it's the best place to have it because, for example, Raylene has us look at other programs curriculum when they need to be updated or new, and we all say, like, for example, I have no idea what the class cap size should be for a math class or a firefighting class. I don't know those things.
But it seems that that would be the place where that faculty or that program would be able to go and educate the curriculum committee about why they're determining that, and not on an individual basis or kind of haphazard at a general department chair.
Yeah, I agree. It couldn't happen at curriculum for a while because no outsiders were allowed to view the curriculum meetings. Jan and I had that fight to make sure that now people can observe the curriculum meetings on Zoom. Voting members have to be there in presence and be present there to vote because of the Brown Act. But now, if, for example, you had a class that you wanted to discuss, you could then join us on Zoom and be a resource. And so I think that will happen more often or not. And I'm talking a lot, and I know Noah has his hand up, so he might have some answers as well. So Noah?
Yeah. Sorry, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm in transit. But two things. Yeah, the academic senate had done a lot of work, well, as you know, Arturo, when you were senate president, about the class caps and where it lives institutionally. And basically, like Grant said, the curriculum committee basically didn't want to take ownership of class cap conversation for lot of different reasons, like the ones Grant's mentioned, and then also just in terms of timing, or the amount of time that they already have to spend getting through curriculum. They just didn't, basically said that they didn't want to own the process. So now where it is kind of landing is with enrollment management. And right now, Dr. Fayek and Brad are leading the enrollment management committee and doing a rewrite of the enrollment management plan. And so there's conversations happening there in the enrollment management committee about how do we decide class caps? Where are the decisions happening? Like you're saying, not just about the financial side, but whenever you raise class caps, that's going to impact being able to do meaningful assessments. That's going to impact student learning, all of that. So there needs to be a balance. It's not like we just raise class caps with no adverse impacts to students. And so the enrollment management committee is taking it on, and at the same time, they're also telling departments, start to have these conversations within your departments. Start to have these conversations about what is most appropriate, what are all the nuances of the individual courses and programs. And so that's kind of the direction that Modi, our VP, has given us. Go ahead and start to have these conversations within the individual programs, while as an institution, we're trying to figure out where it lives campus-wide.
Yeah, so I think that if it's going to live wherever it lives, right, whether it's curriculum committee or whatever, it seems that the Senate needs to have a big say in the structure and the process of doing that, of evaluating classes for the instructional part of an appropriate class size, where faculty and the Senate have a bigger say in that, and not necessarily a committee, whether it's enrollment management or department chairs, that are really just being given directives about no, we need to raise it to 33 or 35. And that was a proposal that yes, we did propose that through the Senate for curriculum. For it to live in curriculum, we thought that was the best place for those conversations to happen, where faculty and program leaders have a say in making a case or informing others about the appropriateness of a class size. But if it's not in a structured, like, there needs to be a process where faculty can actually make input and not just react to a VP of business saying we need to raise classes to 33 because of all of these financial reasons. So yeah, so anyway, I was just wondering where that's going to be housed, if not in the curriculum committee, and if such a structure is going to be created where it's a transparent process that we as faculty can go in and say, okay, this is our class size, this is why this is our class size, and then a committee of both financial and instructional experts are able to determine what that final say is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Yeah, and so there's not an answer right now about where it lives, other than just enrollment management. That's where the conversation is happening, at enrollment management. And the Senate did have a small work group about this last semester. And so I think the enrollment management committee is going to be working with them also, is my assumption. So it's like Scott Sandler and Jane, and I think Sharice would know more about it also.
The thing I keep hearing is, as of now, instructors are supposed to work with their deans to decide until there is a formal process in place. The discussions are happening in enrollment management, but in my opinion, their goal is to increase caps to help the bottom line, but instructors, I think, need to be able to talk about what's best for the classes and their students, and that needs. So I think that we'll keep fighting for an official process and official way, so that it's not just administration making the determination.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. They're trying to improve efficiencies, not necessarily increase cap sizes. Cap sizes are a part of that, but it goes to the scheduling also, and classes that are low enrolled and being allowed to go and so forth. So it's a more complicated thing. It's not like I don't think that they're wanting to come up with a magic number of like all classes should have 33. They're talking about a particular efficiency that Gav has been under efficient for a number of years now, and how to do that but it's not going to be a universal classes should be 32 or 33. The efficiency rate should come out to that for, say, a program or for a division, but not necessarily for a particular class.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. For me, I teach the digital editing for film, and we meet in the 129, and there are only 28 computers in there. So really, the cap can only be 28. Well, that's hurting. So I have other classes, where I feel like I can have 45, and so the combination of the two keeps me kind of positive. And so if we have small classes for whatever reason, what is being done or limited space or resources, we have to offer other classes that will fill at a higher rate so that we are closer to whatever that class cap is.
Does that class have labs?
What, the computer?
Yeah, the one that you're referring to.
Yes.
How many hours?
It's 2 lecture, 3 lab.
So for example, for that, and that's where a number under that, you're actually generating the equivalent FTS of, say, something like a 33, even with 28 students, because of the differential between lab and lecture. And it gets complicated like that. So our drawing class, our studio classes are 24, but with a full class of 24, we're generating the equivalent of 31 FTS. So it gets complicated with lecture and lab hours. And that's where it starts getting into the weeds about instruction and about finances. So when somebody can see one of our drawing classes as 24, a cap of 24, and only having 24, and say, oh, they're inefficient. It's like, no, we're actually equally efficient as a 3 lecture class of 31. So it gets complicated on the finances part, but also with the instructional part. Like we can't have, like you can't have 35 students in your film class when you have a lab and you're having to go around and work with individual students, and that's where that lecture lab ratio helps out with the efficiency part.
Yeah. So we'll keep you updated on where this is going to happen and how faculty can be involved to make sure things like that are stated so that they know. The last thing I wanted to mention in the last department chair is we started a discussion about AI training, and we want more. We want to have more discussions and trainings so that we're better prepared. A lot of instructors are having issues with AI. Modi kept saying, oh yeah, we want AI training, as if it were to use AI in our classrooms. And a lot of us kept saying, no, that's not what we're talking about. The problems with AI, just if, for example, I used to have in my humanities classes, they had to write a 700-word paper every week. And I eliminated that because AI was giving me, all these 700-page papers. And I mean, I knew what was happening and there's nothing I could do about it. So I changed the assignment because of that. And I want help figuring that kind of stuff out. So we're pushing for training when it becomes available, because we're going to make sure it does. I'll let you know where and when and all of that. So if those of you are interested, think it might help your classes or help you teach, we'll let you know so you have that. So Jan.
Yeah, real quick, to piggyback on the AI discussion, the other part that DC's talked about had to do with how are you informing students of your policy about AI in your syllabus. And that doesn't even touch how we all may need to be making the changes like Grant just said he made with his class. But even now, moving forward as we move into spring 24, what standards do you want to inform the students about having to do with your class? And that's going to be a wider conversation across campus as well. There is a Google Docs, and I can send out the link, and you can see what colleges and universities have already started including what their standards are, and it is across a number of different institutions and academic pursuits. So you can see how math is doing it one way and philosophy is doing it a different way, and a third pursuit is doing it entirely. Yes, it's open and use it, and this is how you cite it. So I will find that link and send it out to everybody, just so you see that we are on the beginning of something that right now nobody can really imagine in how it's going to touch every part of our lives, but especially education. So it's going to be a wild ride.
Or maybe the end of civilization.
We are, David, we are all going to work really hard for that, right? No, we're going to prevent that. Let's join that team.
I understand that the scope of or the intent of the AI training is to address some of these problems. I would like to also get trained on how to integrate AI into how to use AI as a tool for our various fields. That's work that I'm doing myself in my own work, and that's work that students are going to have to integrate into their own work in the future. I mean, Jan, you talk about journalism with Microsoft, with the whole thing coming up right now, and them generating the news articles that way. They're already using that. Students are going to be expected to be conversant in AI and be able to use AI as well. So I know this is besides probably this point of or intent of this AI training, but I think that there's also a possibility for using an AI as something to teach students on how to use it effectively as well. But that's
Arturo,
it's a tangent.
Yes, Arturo, the link I'm going to send out where people have already contributed to how they've addressed it in their syllabi points to some of what you're talking about, that there is encouragement in using it as a very specific tool in the ways that the instructor is identifying, because professionally it is going to be required. Thanks for that point.
Yeah, and Modi is completely on board with that, Arturo. He is going to try to have AI training to help us use it, teach it, etc. But
it kind of reminds me of the flipped classroom, right? Where whether it's the cell phones or tablets and so forth, that students were, it was looked at as a problem. Where eventually some faculty were able to use it as a strength for teaching in real time as well. So something along those lines. But yeah, it's beyond what I'm sure the intent for this with some real problems that AI is creating.
Yeah, it's coming. I'll if anything happens, we'll let you know for sure. The only other report is budgets. Anything to report on that, Jan?
No, everything is moving through, and I want to thank our dean for creating a lot of clarity in some of the budget areas so that the issues have not occurred. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Cecilia. Some of the issues we had without a dean or in between deans have now resolved. And so there other, Noah can speak more specifically to budgets. There was a delay, and he knows more detail about it than I do as to why things were delayed. Noah, do you want to are you in a position to speak to that?
Well, I guess the only thing I'll add about the budgets is that I really appreciate everybody's work on program reviews, and the executive cabinet, the VPs and such are still in the process of allocating resources to everybody's goals that they wrote about in program review. So there hasn't been any updates in terms of resource allocation based on program review, but we do have some of the budgets, just our baseline budgets. I know, Grant, we're still working on film and TV to get it restored, and some other, issues here and there. But yeah, that's the only update that I have, is that actually that there is no update yet about program review resource requests. And Arturo, it looks like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are there any important dates of import as far as spending? I know in past years, sometimes it's like, hey, you got to spend your monies by certain times. Usually it's the March 15th date. Sometimes it's earlier. Is there any update on that as far as like how the monies are expended and by when they need to be?
Yeah, usually the business office, Michelle and I will send something out sometime, I'm hoping by February or March. But usually I know last year they pushed the dates back a little bit. So I don't have the specific dates yet for this fiscal year, but they will send out a campus-wide email. But I would say we should just be on top of it and plan to spend stuff down by, February, March at the latest.
Okay, yeah, I know in past years, sometimes it was like December 15th, right?
Oh, wow. No, thankfully it's not that early.
Okay, good.
Okay, the last thing is our last department chair meeting. I'm sorry, fine arts department meeting is Monday, December 4th at 9:30. And next semester, I think we're going to do a few Fridays because so we get more people. But any preferences? This is maybe odd asking those who are here because this clearly works for you, but if you're watching the Zoom recording, please let me or Jan know when you would like for us to plan the meetings in the spring so that we can capture the most people. It's better to have you here with us than you watching alone a recording of a Zoom session. So please reach out to us so that we can have a variety and get as many people involved as possible. But hopefully I'll see a lot of you on Monday, December 4th at 9:30 for our last meeting of the semester. Any last message? People having to leave. I think we're done early, so that's great news. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time, I hope. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.